Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Leatham. This is The Economy and You. And today, we're going to be talking with Patrick Snow. Patrick Snow is a best-selling author, and he is sort of a self-described mentor who helps people write books and helps them to build their credibility. Thank you for being on the show, Patrick.
Well, Chris, I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're having you Skype just because you're on Maui and I'm here on Oahu. The weird and wonderful of technology allows us to do this. So thank you for being on the show. And why don't you give our audience a little bit of a background about what you do? I met you about 6 months ago initially, and came to one of your presentations where you talked about how I could help write a book. I actually interested in writing a book at some point, and so you invited me to come in and chat with you. And so I was hoping maybe you could give the audience a little bit about your background.
Yeah, I'm an international best-selling author, a professional keynote speaker, a publishing coach, a book marketing coach, and a professional speaking coach. And I've learned the hard way that I believe that writing and publishing a book is the world's greatest marketing secret in the history of all business. So what I do is I help entrepreneurs better market themselves to their marketplace through the means of one of the oldest mediums that we have, which is the written word and the written page. And so I help people save them time and money by getting their thoughts and intellectual property out in the marketplace.
Well, can I ask you, how did you sort of have this epiphany? How did you kind of decide that this was the way to go?
Well, it wasn't I guess it was by mistake. I took one speech class in high school, one speech class in college, graduated from the University of Montana in 1991. I moved to Seattle. I got in corporate sales, and I loved selling, but my biggest passion was the speaking industry. And my goal was to become a professional keynote speaker. Unfortunately, I had given 300 speaking engagements, and I failed 300 times to get paid. I got free breakfast and free lunch and free dinner and free pens and free mugs and free parking and free food. And finally, I had a come to Jesus talk, and it's like, what am I doing wrong here? Why can't I make it in this business? and the answer I got back was, if I want what others have, I must do what others have done, and I'll get what others have gotten.
Uh-huh.
And so I looked at my mentors, Brian Tracy, Les Brown, Zig Ziglar, Dr. Stephen Covey, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, and every single one of them had successfully written and published a book. And then they used that book as their platform to stand on to launch a speaking, coaching, and consulting career.
Yeah,
so about 20 years ago, I did the same thing. I spent 5 years of my life writing and publishing a book, and then that launched my professional speaking career. So that's how it all began.
Interesting. So I wanted to kind of touch a little bit, because you talk about writing a book as a way to sort of market your business. But when you talk about marketing a business, you're also talking about marketing yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a believer that your book is your business is your book. But you, as the entrepreneur, are the brand and the face of that business. And the problem is that all too often we can stand up and shout out to the world and tell everybody what our offerings are, but nobody's really going to believe us. And then once we put that in print, there's something magical or mystical about the written word. And as a result of that, there's a bunch of respect and credential and credibility that goes along with publishing. And so that's my forte, is helping people turn their beliefs, their psychology, their philosophy, the branding of their business into the written page, and then using that as a resource to attract more revenue to their bottom line. So
how do people sort of where does somebody sort of begin with this process? Because a lot of times people don't write books because it's that getting started. How do you okay, I want to write a book, but I don't know where to begin. Maybe I have an idea for 3 different books, and I don't know which direction I should take. So how do you get going with that? How do you get started with something like that?
First off, you got to decide what you want to write about, and most people don't know what they want to write about. And I'm a big advocate is that your book is your speech is your book. Your book is your coaching practice is your book. So whatever field that you're most passionate about, that's what you need to write about. And then once you identify the subject matter of what you want to write on, the next thing is to sit down and to create a book outline such as jotting down 20 lessons that you want your readers to learn as a result of reading your material, and then turn those lessons into a book outline. And then once you have that book outline, then you can add the stories from there. And that's the most important step, is getting that book outline done, because if you skip that step, you're never going to be able to get where you want to go.
Well, okay, so now I've outlined my book, and I've got like 15, 20 ideas about what I think are key points, and that's great, but that's a couple of pages maybe.
Yep.
So now I'm like, okay, how do I convert a couple of pages into 100 pages or 150 pages? That seems daunting.
It does. If you don't know what you're doing, it is daunting. So once we get down 20 lessons you want the readers to learn, then we typically have a 24-page book outline. Under every one of those chapters, we try to add 5 subheadings or 5 sub-stories. And so the next homework assignment I give to my clients is to help them identify 100 aha moments from their life, 100 life experiences, lessons, stories that they've learned from living their life, or they've learned from their family or mentors. And then we assign these 100 stories, 5 for each chapter. And then once you have 20 chapters, each with 5 subheadings, and now from there I give them the DNA of writing the chapter with the chapter number, chapter name, inspirational quote, look back, look ahead paragraph. And then really every one of these subheadings is a 1/2 page to 2-page blog, or 1/2 page to 2-page article. And then you follow that up with a summary. And then you got 10 pages per each chapter times 20 chapters, and you got a 250 page book.
Wow, that's a lot. And so that's the formula. Well, you make it really sound easy, Patrick. I got to tell you, you do make it sound easy, but I'm questioning, that's still a lot of work.
Well, some people, they want to spend their time and actually think through and write out the entire book, and that's fine. That's what I've done with my 3 books. But a lot of people, they just say, look, Patrick, I don't have the time to spend 100 to 500 hours writing a book. So is there an easier way? And the answer is yes. You basically take this book outline that you've created, and then you get the voice recognition system on your computer, and then you just look at this outline and then speak your book into your computer on a recording device, and then that translates that into a manuscript, and then you have that edited, and you're off and done, and you can have your entire book spoken
but what
in
if
like
I have
3 hours.
Well, okay, that sounds good as long as I don't have a thick accent.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah,
it's
that's
true.
right. Well, so you've been doing, how long have you been doing this, Patrick?
We've published about 1,000 clients over the last 20 years. And previous to that, I probably have 10 or 15 years into this. So I've got about 30 years of my life of blood, sweat, and tears since I've been 17 years old into this information empire industry, which is inclusive of speaking, coaching, consulting, publishing. So about 30 years altogether.
So you're seldom at a loss for words, I take it.
Well, I tell you what, growing up as the 4th of 5 children in my family, as a kid, I never got a chance to get a word in edgewise. and so I think as I became an adult and went off to college and did my own thing, I certainly do enjoy professional speaking, without a doubt.
That's great. That's great. Okay. Well, so now we've talked about this now from marketing, and then this sort of process. How do you find the time to mentor all these people? Like, it would seem to me that's if you've got a couple hundred people at any given time working on a book, that's really got to usurp a lot of your time.
Well, the way I do it is through leveraging time and also leveraging group events. And so I do 6 live group coaching calls every week. And I'm a big advocate that any CEO, any entrepreneur, as they want to spread their message and ramp up in volume, one of the best things they can do is compress time by doing group coaching, doing group conference calls. We just hosted a 39th Bestseller Publishing Institute in Honolulu this past Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We had 30 to 40 people at that event. So I gave up 30 hours of my time to host these 3 days. And if I would have done that one-on-one, I would have to spend 1,200 hours on the phone doing one-on-one coaching. So the answer is to compress time by group coaching calls and then doing group coaching in person. And by doing that, it gives you literally an unlimited amount of bandwidth to bring on more volume.
Very good, very good. That's great. That's actually a great idea. And is that something you learned from your own mentors? Is that where you picked up?
Well, I think in the beginning, I thought if I could do just one client at a time and publish one book a year, then I'd be on the right track. And so the first year I published one book, and then the next year I think I published 5 books, and the next year I published 10. And every year I kept doubling and doubling and doubling. And you're right, right now we're publishing about 200 books a year.
Wow.
And so it's because of the fact that, this is the other major thing. Texting is I think texting is the single greatest tool in the history of our business. And so I rely quite heavily on texting as well. But it's just leveraging these technologies that are available to us today, and that gives us the ability to do more volume. And I think that's what it's all about to succeed in business. It's not about making a sale. It's about ramping up and being able to leverage technology so you can do multiple sales by focusing on volume. And I think when people study wealth, to achieve wealth, you just have to sell a product or service to the public in volume. And that's the key, in volume. And when you do it in volume, then it sets you free to really do what you want.
Wow, that's amazing. That's great. That's really great. I wanted to talk a little bit about, talk about becoming a best-selling author to give credentials to your business, but we're going to take a short commercial break. My name is Chris Leatham. This is The Economy and You, and stay tuned. We'll have more with Patrick Snow, and we'll be right back. Mahalo.
Here's the deal. I'm Jay Fidel. I'm the host of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which is the Energy Policy Forum's program on Wednesday. That's how we call Wednesday Energy Wednesday. We call it Energy Wednesday every Wednesday. Are you surprised? Okay, and we get guys like Jim Alberts here from Hawaiian Electric who can tell us what's really going on in energy. We want to be informed. It's so important. It's the most important initiative in our state. Clean energy is major, okay? And that's how we cover it on this show. That's the deal. What do you think, Sharon?
I think that's great. That's why we're here every Wednesday from 4 to 5, and we hope you all join us so we can hear people like Jim coming on our show and co-host Ray Starley from Hawaii Energy.
Okay, Jim, you've been here today. You've seen this. You heard what she said. What do you think?
I think it's a tremendous opportunity for people to come together and talk about the issues. Oftentimes there isn't a good forum to bring these key issues out into the public, and this is a tremendous way to go about it. And the activity of this show is essential to keep talking about energy because, as you said, it's such an essential part of our lives that we need to pay attention to it and we need to think about the future.
Okay, Ray, your turn.
Well, this is a special time in the history of Hawaii where we're making some pretty radical changes in the way we use energy and generate energy. And this show is the one place you can count on coming to every Wednesday and hearing something about the latest issues that are on the table, being discussed, that will affect us all going forward. So come join us, and if you have some ideas you want to share with us about energy, give us a call and let us know. We'll put you up here and let you talk for an hour. So come see us.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Jim. It's great to be, from ThinkTech's point of view, it's great to have this show. We love the show. It's our most important show. So come around and listen to us 4 to 5 on Wednesday. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Hi, I'm Chris Leatham. Welcome back to The Economy and You. Today's guest is Patrick Snow. Patrick Snow's on Maui, so we've got Patrick hooked up to Skype. And we're talking about the idea of writing a book to promote your business. How do you do that? How do you start with that? How do you do that effectively? And so, Patrick, we were talking about this when we left. So let's talk a little bit about the holy grail of book marketing, okay? So, because now I've written a book, but, who do I sell it to?
Yeah, well, very good question. And the first thing you got to do is understand that your book is your speech is your book, and the best way to market and sell books is to speak. Bob Moad taught me several years ago. He said, when I speak, business happens. And so the holy grail of this book marketing industry came to me about 15 years ago. I got a speaking engagement in Key Largo, Florida, They paid me $5,000 11 months in advance of the event, round trip airline ticket, car rental, hotel, food, all my expenses. And I booked the gig. I went down there, I delivered the presentation, and afterwards I said, you know what, I don't understand. There had to have been other speakers. Why did you book Patrick Snow as your keynote speaker? And they said, Patrick, we had 47 other speakers all over the world that all sent us an email with the embedded highlight video in it. And I said, well, great. And they said, but then you were the only person that actually mailed us a signed copy of the book.
Oh.
And I said, well, what do you think of the book? And she said, we liked it. And I said, no, what do you think of the content of the book? And my business and life forever changed with her answer when she said, Patrick, I'm sorry, but there was 7 of us on the speaker selection committee, and not a single one of us actually even read your book. and in that moment, I was like, wow, that's it. That's the holy grail of this industry, is that you write and publish a book, and then you ship that book or give that book selectively to the meeting planner, to the book reviewer, to the radio or TV producer or host. And then as a result of gifting books selectively, then that puts you in a position to drive revenue from a speaking, coaching, consulting position. So that is the holy grail, is to gift books to your number 1 prospects, and that ultimately allows you to drive revenue.
Well, you see this as sort of like, I guess I see this as sort of old school versus new school. So what if you want to sell books through sort of a traditional means? You're looking to sell your book online, or, I have a lady, I take care of her website. She's nearly 90 years old, and she writes a new book every year. And she sells them online, and she sells them other ways. But what would you suggest or recommend?
Well, we get all of our clients in Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com and bookstores worldwide through Ingram's, which is the number 1 book distributor on the planet. But the problem going through brick and mortar bookstores or online retailers, such as the ones I've described, is many times they take upwards of 2/3 of your profit, and sometimes they don't pay you, or if they do pay you, it's 60, 90, 120 days, 150 days later. So we get all of our clients fully distributed on a global basis, both in the print book and in the ebook. But based on that, we try not to focus on those sales because you really don't make money. The goal is to sell the book direct, whether it be in the back of the room sales, out of your trunk, via mail, direct off your website to your end reader without having a third-party middleman. And when you sell direct off a website, you're getting paid immediately. You keep 100% of the profits.
That's right.
And then you just ship the book. So the old school way, to me, is still selling books one-on-one or one on an organization, or even selling books by the truckload. That's the way you do it, where you eliminate the third party. And then by doing that, you can actually make money in this business.
Well, you were talking to me about a lady who had a chicken, was it a chicken recipe, a book on chicken recipes. And she figured out a novel way to market her book. And maybe you can share that, because I think there's a sort of that whole concept of being creative when it comes to marketing is also an imperative today.
Well, I'm a big advocate that we should strategically gift the book away one at a time to people who have the ability to buy our books in volume. And early on, when I sold my book, I sold, I think, 40,000 copies to one direct selling company right out of the gate, and became a best-selling author overnight. And so that's what I coach and teach, is selling books by the truckload. And the example that you were talking about is a woman who struck up a deal with Weber Barbecue several summers ago. And the way the deal went down is that every time Weber Barbecue sold a barbecue machine, or whatever you call them, then there was a free barbecue chicken recipe cookbook that was given away to the buyer of that barbecue. And so as a result of that, she didn't make a whole lot of money per each book, but she moved 1 million books in a summer by strategically gifting some of her books to Weber Barbecue. Weber Barbecue was interested.
Wow.
They thought it was a great promotion. And then she was the one singing all the way to the bank, because by the end of the summer, they moved 1 million copies of her books.
Wow.
And so that's the kind of strategy that I coach and teach. And it's easier to find 100,000, it's easier to find a company to buy 100,000 books than it is to find 100,000 individuals, each to buy a book apiece.
That's always a little tricky. I've never had a lot of results, success in selling anything to 100,000 of anybody one at a time.
Yeah, never works that way. Never works.
Yeah. So now that sounds really great. So if somebody was interested in reaching out to you and sort of learning more about your strategies, your marketing strategies, how do they do that? I mean, because it just seems to me you're already a pretty busy guy.
Well, I spend about half of my day coaching my existing clients, and I spend the other half of my day prospecting. So my website is thepublishingdoctor.com or thepublishingdoctor.com, and anyone can go there, and then they can send me a text on my private cell phone number or send me an email, and I'd be honored to give them a complimentary, no obligation, 30 to 60-minute publishing consultation by phone or Skype. And then typically during that call, I want to find out what their needs are, what their goals are, if they're just writing a book as a bucket list, is it fiction or nonfiction, or do they really want to use that book as a tool to better market their business?
Yeah.
And whatever they're looking for, I can certainly help them do that.
Well, could you give us maybe some names of some of your clientele? I don't know if I can ask that question, but maybe there's some names that we could recognize of folks that have worked with you and published books successfully.
Well, being that we're here in the Hawaii market, many people know Egan Inouye. Egan is the founder of Egan's Fit Training Center, and he was a 11-time world champion in racquetball, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and MMA. So he's one of my clients, and his book is already just hit the printers as we speak right now.
Wow.
And he'll have books available in bookstores worldwide come January 1st. Another Hawaiian hero, for lack of a better word, I just started working with Harrington, the former co-star of the original Hawaii 5-0.
Yeah.
And he's an incredible man. He's 80 years old and has got the energy of about a 50-year-old. So we just started working together in the last week, and we're helping him write a book about his process of him achieving the impossible dream and helping other people do the same, regardless of their background, their education, the resources. And he's a Stanford grad and then was co-star of Hawaii 5-0.
That's right.
And then an entertainer. So he is like one of the most wise men that I've ever met. And I'm honored to partner with him to help him get his book done.
That's awesome.
So there are a couple right there that are local.
So there's people here, there are people here in Hawaii that you're all working with all the time to help them get a book published.
Yeah, I spent 25 years in Seattle. I moved to Hawaii about 3 years ago. And I would say that we have 75 or so clients in the state of Hawaii that I'm working with. And it's all working out pretty well.
Also, didn't you work with Lila Berg as well, a former a member of the House of Representatives?
Yes, Lila Berg's Breaking Through the Gilded Cage. I think that's her title. Her book is out, and she's been traveling and selling her books all over the world and having great success with that as well. So she's also one of my favorite clients.
Yeah, I love her. She's amazing.
Yeah.
She is amazing, yeah. Okay, well, now let's switch gears just a little bit here, because we talk about the book. We talk about getting a book published and what that does for you. But, one of the things that you do talk about is becoming a keynote speaker. And using your book as a way to book speaking engagements for those people who are passionate about a topic. Like for me, I worked on legislation for many years to reform the family court system, for example. And I've always thought about that as something that I would love to write a book about. But I also would be passionate about talking about that topic and maybe addressing audiences about the need for making sure that kids have the love and affection and companionship of both parents in their lives, and moving the court away from an adversarial model. So how would I use that book to leverage speaking engagements?
Well, first off, I think the big key, number one, is writing and publishing a book on the most book speaking topics on the planet. And I have people come to me that they're passionate about duck decoys or collecting rookie baseball cards. And the reality of it is, the professional speaking, I've done 3,000 speaking engagements on 4 continents over the last 20 years. And I found that there are some speaking topics that are really, really hot and others that are not. And for example, the leadership genre of anything and everything to do with leadership is probably the #1 most book speaking topic on planet Earth. Number 2 is change. Number 3 is anything to do with sales or marketing or money or entrepreneurship or finances or wealth creation or real estate. So really the goal is to succeed as a speaker. We need to find out what these most book speaking topics are, and then write about those speaking topics in our book. And then if we match our book chapter headings to the speaking topics that are in demand in the marketplace, then once your book is published, the whole goal is to physically gift your books to hundreds of meeting planners throughout the world and then follow up. And this whole industry is about 3 things. Number 1, you got to write and publish your intellectual property. Number 2, you got to strategically gift your book to that meeting planner. And then number 3, you got to follow up. And it all comes down to the follow-up. And there's an old quote that says, the fortune is made in the follow-up. And yes, I would love to help you with the book that you have on the subject matter that you've just discussed. But the challenge that you have is that you can certainly speak on that, but there are not many Fortune 500 companies that have conferences where they come to Seattle to learn about that subject matter.
That's right.
The speaking that you would do would be more to a smaller audience, to a court system, to child and family services, to
and to legislators and decision
to
makers.
legislators,
yes,
exactly.
That's right. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that's the key, is we have to decide. And I had a friend of mine who wrote a book about golf. And I was like, well, what's the big deal about golf? And he said, well, I wrote this book about golf, and I'm only getting speaking engagements at golf courses and country clubs.
That's right.
And I'm like, so what's the problem? And he says, the problem is I absolutely hate the subject matter of golf. And I said, why'd you write the book on it? And he said, because I thought I could make a lot of money. So the point of it is, we have to write about whatever subject matter that we're most passionate about and that we're willing to spend the rest of our life on speaking, coaching, consulting. And if we do that, then we'll set ourselves up for success.
That sounds like great advice, Patrick. That really sounds like great advice. So now let's talk about, let's say you're getting speaking engagements, but then like you want to do a second book. Now you've written how many books? You've written 3 books?
Yeah, Creating Your Own Destiny, The Affluent Entrepreneur, and Boy Entrepreneur.
Okay, so now writing that first book seems to be the hardest. Is it generally the hardest, the most difficult thing to do is write the first book? Does it get easier after that, or?
It does get easier, and here's the problem. One of my mentors, Dan Pointer, who wrote the Self-Publishing Manual, he says that the average author in a lifetime sells 250 books in a lifetime. And then the Publishers Marketing Association reports that 98% of authors will never sell more than 2,000 books. So the problem lies in the fact that people write and publish a book, they promote it for 30 days, and then Oprah Winfrey doesn't call. So they abandon the book, and then they write book 2. And this time they promote it for 60 days, and Dr. Phil doesn't call. And then they write book 3, book 4, book 5, book 6. So Dan Pointer's message to me was, you write one book, and then you spend the rest of your life updating that book into a 2nd edition, 3rd edition, 4th edition. And each year you come out with new stories, new chapters, new aha moments. And as you do that, then you take that smaller book and then you evolve that into a bigger, thicker book. And so that's why it's so important to write on whatever subject matter that you're most passionate about. So for my clients, if they want to write book 2, I give them a green light, but I want them to sell 35,000 copies of book 1 first. And then once they've sold 35,000 copies of book 1, then they have my blessing to write book number 2, and then book number 3, and so on and so forth.
Okay, well, we're going to take a short commercial break, and we'll come right back. I'm Chris Leatham. This is The Economy and You. Today's guest is Patrick Snow. Stick around. We've got more to talk about, to share with you about writing your first book.
Mahalo for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. We are a channel dedicated to raising public awareness about the importance of technology, energy, diversification, and globalism to the future of Hawaii. We broadcast and stream daily from 1 to 5 every weekday, and we broadcast on Olelo 54 and OC16 TV. All of our shows are archived on thinktechhawaii.com, and we hope to see you there. Aloha.
Aloha! How you doing? It's me, Angus McTech, wishing you to welcome and join us to see us on Hibachi Talk on ThinkTech Hawaii. Join my co-hosts, Gordo the Tech Czar and Andrew the Security Guy, every Friday from 1300 to 1345. We look forward to seeing you. We'll talk tech and we'll have some wee bit of fun. And remember, let your wing gang free wherever you be. Aloha!
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Chris Leatham, and this is The Economy in You. Thank you for watching my show today. Today's guest is Patrick Snow, and Patrick is we've been talking about what it takes to publish a book and how you can use a book to promote your business. And then Patrick, can we bring Patrick back up? Hey, Patrick, how you doing? So let's talk about business coaching, because another aspect of being somebody who has learned to do these things well is becoming a business coach. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, and there's actually two parts of that. People want to really decide, or one thing that we have to decide is, do we want to be a business coach or a business consultant? And
now, what's
there's
the difference?
a fine line between the two of them. For me, I look at coaching as something that you do one-on-one, one on a business owner, one-on-one. Whereas coaching, you might do it one on the organization. So if it's a small business that you're coaching and there's 50 employees in that company, you might be consulting to that business of 50 employees, where somebody else might be a one-man show or a one-woman show, and then you do one-on-one coaching. So that's really the difference, I think, is coaching is done one-on-one, coaching is one on the organization.
So how does somebody how do you set yourself up in that kind of a role? I mean, it sounds really good, and there's lots of people out there that they've identified themselves as life coaches and business coaches or mentors, but then, setting yourself up as one of those people, how do you get from here to there?
Well, Dan Poynter, in his book, The Self-Publishing Manual, he said that the number one most respected career in North America is that of a brain surgeon, and the number two most respected career in North America today is that of a published author. And so one way to set yourself up either as a business coach or a business consultant is to write and publish a book, and then you gift that book to that CEO, to that VP of sales, to that C-level executive for consulting, or you gift that book to the one-on-one that you want to do for coaching. And the bigger challenge, or the big question that I get all the time is, do you need to be certified? What kind of credentials and qualifications do you have?
That seems to be a bit amorphous. I've never really heard of being certified.
Yeah, and I think the thing about it is it all comes down to our intellectual property. So anything that we have experience in, whether it be parenting, or whether it be painting, or whether it be swimming, or running a marathon. If you've run a marathon, you can coach others to run a marathon. If you finished an Ironman triathlon, you can coach others to do that. If you're a world-class painter or artist or sculptor, you can teach other people to do that. So bottom line, as coaches and consultants, we need to first identify what skill sets we have, what intellectual property that we have, what experience that we have, and knowledge. And then we take that knowledge, wisdom, skill, and experience, and then we just share that for a fee as a coach or consultant with those people who don't have what we've done, and then we show them what we did so they can get what we got. And there's an old quote that says, if you want what others have, you must do what others have done, and you'll get what others have gotten. So it's a good idea to hire a coach that knows what they're doing.
That's great advice. It's hard to learn something from somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll get sent down the wrong pipe. So, well, Patrick, this has been a pretty interesting conversation with you, and I think this is an area, I think a lot of people have the idea of writing a book on their bucket list. When I think about writing a book, it just seems like I've had so many life experiences that this would be sort of, like I'm trying to pick this topic of what I want to write a book about. Is this the kind of thing that you actually start to have that discussion with folks when you spend that 30 or 60 minutes with them?
Yeah, and I think the big thing is that too many people think that writing and publishing a book is something that they should do when they're 70 or 80 or 90 years old. They should do it at the end of their life, once they become that billionaire or trillionaire. And the reality of it is, Zig Ziglar taught me early on that every day we're not published, we're losing money. So we don't need to have all of the answers, all of the solutions. We don't need to be 70. And also, there's no guarantees that we'll be 70. My father just passed away in July at 74 years old after a 9-month battle with cancer. And so I guess what I've learned is tomorrows are not promised, and they never have been. So the longer that we wait, the greater the chances are that we're just simply going to run out of time.
Yeah.
And so we don't need to be a certain age. We don't need to have achieved a certain net worth. All we need to do is have a desire. And for some of my clients, they want to write a children's book. Others, it's a business book. Others, it's a romance book. Others, it's a self-help book or to build their business. So it doesn't matter what you're writing on. What matters is that you get started. I have my clients give me a date in which they want their books on their doorstep, and then I build them a work back or production schedule, and we move forward.
Wow.
And the thing is we just can't wait because we don't know what the future holds.
That's true. That's true. You know, we've all experienced those things in our lives those hard turns that we never anticipated. So it sounds like to me, Patrick, that you've really got a great passion for this. You really love what you do.
Well, I think it comes back to two different quotes. Abraham Lincoln says that the written page is the only way the dead can teach the yet unborn. And there's a second quote that says there's only two things that we can leave behind on this earth. One is our children and the other is our art. And I firmly believe that a book can become a masterpiece. It can become a work of art. And then as we sell and market and give that book away, we really have the ability to help shape and mold and make another person's path easier than our own. And by doing that, I think that's what it's all about. It's all about serving and giving back and mentoring others in need.
Yeah, that's awesome, Patrick. And I have to agree with you 110%. So how can we put up information on how people can reach out and to Patrick? And is there a phone number where people can text you or?
Yep, I'm going to give them my private cell phone number. I moved from Seattle after 25 years, so I still have my 206 number. Any of your listeners can send me a private text with their name and their time zone at 206-310-1200. Again, that's area code 206-310-1200. And just have them add their name, their time zone, and I will reply back to schedule that complimentary, no obligation, 30 to 60-minute consultation by phone or by Skype.
Well, that's extremely magnanimous of you there, Patrick. So I really, again, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I love coming out and talking to people who have a passion about what they do. And when I met you, that's why I know this took a while to happen, but I'm so glad that you were able to come on the show today because you are a shining example of one of those people who really live their dreams every day. And so I want to say thank you again.
Well, you're most welcome, and I'm so grateful to have this time with you today.
Yes, thank you. So I will, my name's Chris Leatham, and I'd like to say to everybody, thank you for watching today's show. We'll be back again next week with another exciting show, The Economy and You. Aloha.